Isaac and his mother lived alone in a small house on a hill. Isaac kept to himself, drawing pictures and playing with his toys as his mom watched Christian broadcasts on the television. Life was simple, and they were both happy. That was until the day Isaac's mom heard a voice from above. "Your son has become corrupted by sin. He needs to be saved." "I will do my best to save him, my lord," Isaac's mother replied, rushing into Isaac's room, removing all that was evil from his life. Again the voice called to her. "Isaac's soul is still corrupt. He needs to be cut off from all that is evil in this world and confess his sins." "I will follow your instructions, Lord. I have faith in thee," Isaac's mother replied, as she locked Isaac in his room, away from the evils of the world. One last time, Isaac's mom heard the voice of God calling to her. "You've done as I've asked, but I still question your devotion to me. To prove your faith, I will ask one more thing of you." "Yes, Lord, anything," Isaac's mother begged. "To prove your love and devotion, I require a sacrifice. Your son Isaac will be this sacrifice. Go into his room and end his life as an offering to me to prove you love me above all else." "Yes, Lord," she replied, grabbing a butcher's knife from the kitchen. Isaac, watching through a crack in his door, trembled in fear. Scrambling around his room to find a hiding place, he noticed a trapdoor to the basement hidden under his rug. Without hesitation, he flung open the hatch, just as his mother burst through his door and threw himself down into the unknown depths below.
Popular indie game released in 2011, developed by Edmund Macmillan and Florian Himsel. The game is a top-down dungeon crawler and roguelike game with a dark and twisted storyline. Players control Isaac, a young boy trying to escape his mother's religious fanaticism. The game has gained a massive following due to its addictive gameplay, challenging difficulty, and replayability factor. But in this video, I'm not going to review the game for you. I mostly want to talk about the fact that why some religious stories are terrifying and why Binding of Isaac is one of the darkest games I have played in my entire life. The original religious story behind the Binding of Isaac game is known as the Binding of Isaac, or Akedah in Hebrew, a story from the Bible and Torah. In the biblical narrative, Genesis 22:1-18, God commands Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac on Moriah. Abraham obeys without question, taking Isaac to the designated location. He binds Isaac and places him on a makeshift altar, preparing to kill him. As Abraham raises his knife to slay his son, an angel of God calls out from heaven to stop him. The angel tells Abraham that his fear of God is proven, as he was willing to sacrifice his only son. Abraham then sees a ram caught in a thicket by its horns, which he sacrifices instead of his son. This story is significant in both Judaism and Christianity. In Judaism, it's viewed as a test of Abraham's faith. In Christianity, it's often seen as a precursor to the sacrifice of Jesus, with Isaac as a kind of prophetic symbol of Jesus. It's terrifying, isn't it? The game's central plot revolves around the child Isaac, whose life is in danger. His mother, believing she is carrying out divine will, is willing to kill him. This idea of parental love turned into a threat is disturbing and fundamentally tragic. Isaac is locked away and isolated, left to deal with his fear and confusion alone. The game does a powerful job of conveying his terror and loneliness. The creatures Isaac battles in the basement are grotesque and often symbolic of his own fears and insecurities. Many are deformed or mutated versions of Isaac himself, representing his self-loathing or fear of what he could become. The game explores themes of religion, abuse, guilt, and sacrifice, often in brutal and unsettling ways. It also doesn't shy away from controversial topics such as the idea of harmful or misguided religious fervor. Depending on the player's actions and the path they choose, the game can have several different endings, many of which are tragic or bittersweet at best. These endings often reveal more about Isaac's struggles, fears, and the harsh realities of his situation, and the game's art style, music, and overall tone contribute to a sense of dread and unease. The basement, where most of the game takes place, is dark, grimy, and filled with unsettling imagery. All these elements combine to make The Binding of Isaac a deeply dark and often sad game. Despite its simple graphics and arcade-style gameplay, it tells a powerful story of fear, sacrifice, and the struggle for survival. Now, I want to talk about the game ending, so if you haven't played the game yet, go check it out. The Binding of Isaac is known for its multiple endings, each revealing a new layer of the narrative. The nature of these endings contributes significantly to the game's overall dark and unsettling tone. Isaac's journey is not only a physical one, but also a deeply psychological one. The enemies he faces are grotesque representations of his fears and anxieties. Every item he picks up to help him on his journey often has a disturbing implication, suggesting themes of self-harm, sin, and guilt. The game's endings often reveal that Isaac's real enemy is not the monsters in the basement, but his own fear and self-loathing. In one ending, it's suggested that Isaac views himself as the demonic entity he fights at the end of the game. In another, we learn that the entire game might have taken place in Isaac's imagination as he suffocates inside a chest. These endings suggest a struggle with guilt, fear, and self-identity. The most recent ending as of the Repentance expansion suggests that Isaac actually dies, with the game's events being his life flashing before his eyes. This conclusion adds a layer of tragic inevitability to the game, reinforcing the dark and melancholy themes that permeate the narrative. In conclusion, The Binding of Isaac is a compelling example of how a game can convey complex psychological and emotional themes. Despite its seemingly simple surface, the game presents a deep exploration of fear, guilt, and the impact of religious fervor. Its dark and often tragic endings serve to drive home these themes, leaving a lasting impression on the player. This depth of narrative, combined with its engaging gameplay mechanics, is a key factor in the game's enduring popularity and critical acclaim. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Love ya.